There we go.
Hey,
Alrighty. Well, it's April the 9th, a couple minutes after 7 o'clock. So welcome everybody to the April 2026 HAL meeting. Um, Victor is proxying for me at the Nature Center, and I'm going to be remote here today. And we've got, I think, a good program, certainly very interesting with four members of HAL that are going to share their experiences with dark sky sites. And a lot of our standard material too, as well as the member astrophotos, shallow skies. Wayne has an interesting "What's Up in Space." So let's go ahead and kick it off, Victor, if you would. So as always, we like to ask whether we have any new members online that would like to introduce themselves, or anyone in the audience there at Robinson that would like to introduce themselves as a new member. All old hands today. No one new. All right, let's move on then. Next slide.
I think something might be happening because Victor is muted right now.
Yeah, Victor, you are muted. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but at any rate, so
sorry.
Dave, no, it happens. So David, is he in the audience or is he online?
David is here.
Ah, very good. You can tell us about your book of the month that you have selected.
Kind of pulling up books from my library. I know some of you may have copies of this, because a lot of you probably remember when Voyagers were first launched. Very good, comprehensive, obviously well-written book by Carl Sagan with some additional assistance. But if you're really looking for something to have all the details, actually went into the records that went on the both Voyager probes. And now that we're hearing that the batteries and generators are about ready to die after almost 50 years. I think it's pretty darn good to go as well as they are, but they're still sending back periodic signals. They're still doing somewhat a little bit of science, but that's something highly recommended and easy to follow, easy to read, even if it is a little dated.
Okay.
All right. Any questions about the book? Probably not. All right. So we had a public star party. Jose, I see that you're on. Would you like to talk a little bit about this star party and how it went?
Hey, so yeah, the start party went pretty well. We counted over 200 people attending. It was a lot of people. They were there like an hour before it even started, so um it was clear outside when there was already a bunch of people getting in the observatory and looking into some of the telescopes, like looking at the moon. Lots of questions, lots of good questions that came up. It was a fun activity. We looked at the moon, we looked at Jupiter, we tried to see the transit of the ISS near Jupiter on the island, but we couldn't get it on the field of view. But we were able to see it with binoculars and also just a naked eye outside. Then we look at some galaxies, M81, M82. We looked at Orion's Nebula as well and the Horsehead Nebula. Yeah, it was pretty nice. Really good way to start the start parties for the year.
You're
Come
on
off
mute
mute
now.
here. Yeah, it sounded like it was an excellent star party. Lots of people attending and clear weather for a change. So good start to the star party season for sure. Uh, Congratulations for holding, and we will probably see some of those people join HAL, even if it's only for a year. We usually get some members that join after something like this. So great job, guys.
Oh yeah,
All right,
two
next.
of the park rangers who attended are going to be joining HAL soon.
Oh,
And
really?
we had 5 park rangers attending that were very excited, and they also said that they will be joining on every single public third party from here on.
Great. That's awesome. Great to hear it. All righty. Okay, Victor.
Just a reminder that we have, is there text that's gonna pop up? Yeah.
I think there is. There you go.
Okay. So this is just a reminder, we still have plenty of time, but if anybody's interested in, bringing your telescope and showing it to the public down in the DC area, there'll be an opportunity to do it on the 26th of September. And if you're interested, then send an email, please, to outreach@howardastro.org. That's
And
all I have.
one thing that we should probably mention, Victor, is that you've said that the logistics are pretty good in terms of you can kind of pull up and drop off your telescope. So you're probably going to want somebody there to watch your telescope, but you can drop
Yeah.
it off and then you can park not too far away. So
In
it's
fact,
not like you're taking your telescope on the tube to get there.
can you see my mouse? This little red dot?
Yep, I see the red dot.
Yeah, so the roads are kind of blocked off and you can kind of pull right up to this intersection and they have things cordoned off. You can drop off all your gear, leave somebody with your stuff, and then drive a couple of blocks to where they have reserved parking. So if, the logistics of actually showing up are not that bad. So I brought my 11-inch, SCT down there. In fact, it's right, you can see it right here. There's my C11 and there's me standing there. There was a big the picture was taken at just pretty much the worst time because there was a line generally this long for like 2 or 3 hours straight. On this particular night, this was last year, like Jupiter was out, came up, it rose right over the Capitol building. It was kind of cool, came out of these trees. Yeah, there was a good line and lots of interest, gave away lots of cards, and Arjun and family were there giving away, HAL swag and stickers and whatnot. And Galileo showed up this year. I didn't see him last year. He had this guy had the whole shtick down, his accent and everything. He was playing the role.
Cool. Alrighty. So just a note of information that HAL supported the International Dark Sky Week, which I believe is next week. The governor has signed the proclamation. Dark Sky Maryland is very active and did this. So it's never a bad thing to get some publicity for your case. That we would prefer that the lighting be more shielded and better. And speaking of that, let's click to the next slide. If you are ever having to address doing lighting around your own property, the Dark Sky International has great resources to talk about how to make sure that the lighting is helpful. Things like making sure, obviously, that it's cut off, that it doesn't direct skyward. It's ideal if you can have it like timed so that it only goes on when you need it. And definitely warm colored are better than the blue part of the spectrum, which creates more of a problem. So just keep in mind that Dark Sky Maryland, and which is a part of Dark Sky International, is a great resource in terms of when you're trying to improve your lighting around your property and keeping it dark sky friendly. Okay, next slide. And this will bring us to the main part of the program, which, as we've mentioned, is going to be a series of 4 HAL members talking about their experiences. We're going to start off with Mike Miller, who serves on the Alpo board and is our outreach coordinator. And he's going to talk about his trip up to Cherry Springs State Park, which is in Pennsylvania. So, Mike,
right.
when you're ready,
Sure. Can you hear me okay? I'm not sure is this the best place to stand.
I'm hearing you fine.
All right, yeah, I think go back one. If you can go back one. So anyway, for those who don't know me, my name is Mike Miller. I'm also the outreach coordinator for HAL. And so quick show of hands, has anybody actually been to Cherry Springs State Park? Wow, this is awesome. All right, so
I was there last year too.
I've got a great audience here of people who haven't been, but trust me, it's absolutely worth it. So go ahead, next slide, please. All right, just a couple things about it. When I was fact checking my slides, I didn't realize it's actually Bortle 2 read. It's not Bortle 1, but I really couldn't tell the difference because it is the darkest sky I can never recall seeing in my lifetime. It is a park within the Pennsylvania park system, and so it's 24 hours accessible. The sky is largely unobstructed, and I'll show you in one of my pictures what I'm talking about when I mean largely unobstructed. It's free to go in there. There is some like paid camping spots and paid like lodges and things like that in there. But again, for the most part, the public area is absolutely free to come and go as you please. And most people actually say this is the best dark sky park on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Next slide. All right, so my slides are actually kind of backwards here. Couple things to keep in mind is, so this isn't going to be like one of your like impromptu star parties that we have out at Alpha Ridge. So you're not just going to throw your gear in a car and head out there because it is about 5 hours away by car. It's about 250 miles. So it's a little bit of a distance, but it's very obtainable. So this is the closest one to us we're going to hear about tonight. And if you look on my first slide, the nearest town is this little burg called Coldersport, Pennsylvania. And if you look at the dotted line up here, that's actually the New York state line. That's how far north in Pennsylvania it actually is. The park itself actually sits on a mountain that's about 2,300 foot elevation, and I'll explain to you why that's kind of important as well. But it's a fair clip up to get up there. So part of my presentation is going to be talking about how to best plan for that so you can maximize your viewing time. All right, so as I said, Coldersport, it's the nearest town to the Dark Sky Park at Cherry Springs. There's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, there is not a lot going on up there. There's not a lot of daytime activities. So this would be one to bring a good book, preferably an astronomy book, preferably a book of the month. So this is something you want to think about what you're going to be doing during the daytime. They have this interesting ice mine up there, which is like it freezes in the summer and it thaws in the winter through some weird inversion they don't fully understand. It was closed when I went up there in November of 24, but if I get back up there in the summer, definitely going to hit that. There's no real restaurants, no real hotels. There's 2 hotels in the area. So again, this isn't something you're just going to throw together at the last minute. You really want to think about how you're going to plan this trip out because you're going to need to figure out where you're going to stay and things like that. There's a grocery store. I think we found 1 restaurant, maybe 1 or 2, fast food places. But again, not a lot up there. The biggest thing for me was we stayed in an Airbnb. I think that might be for a lot of folks your best bet because there's a lot of Airbnbs up there. You can read about the ratings and things, but again, not a lot of hotels. The cabins at Cherry Springs book up pretty quickly unless you want to do tent camping. It's probably your best option to do that. Again, so there's, like I said, not a lot to do in the day, but you definitely are going to have a great nighttime experience if you catch a good night. So when I talk about being up at 2,300 feet, what I'm talking about is there is no cell reception up there for at least Verizon. I've heard T-Mobile, AT&T, I've heard it go both ways. So it's really hard to say. It's also going to be colder than it's going to be at ground level. So if you're up there, you're going to spend the night up there looking at stars, dress warm, even in the warmer months, just because it's going to be colder as you get higher. It's an open field, and I think it's a really well-maintained facility. But again, this is not something that you want to wear tennis shoes, Crocs, Tevas, things of that nature. You really want closed-toed shoes because this is an open field and it's not, paved or anything like that. The one downside from this park versus what you're going to hear about with the other parks is I think it's probably going to be more susceptible to inclement weather and cloudy skies. So talk about that in a little bit about the planning. But if you go to places like what Vic's going to talk about with, Chile and the one in Hawaii, you're probably going to get a lot more consistent, good, clear nights than you would at Polar Sport, which is going to be more along the lines of what we experience in our weather systems here. The other thing is they have a well-maintained restroom facility. So a lot of people ask about that. That's an easy one. But again, it's a very, very nice park. All right, so this is just some pictures I took the night that I set up. And when I say largely unobstructed view of the sky, you can see they have a tree line on both sides of the park here. You can see a little bit better maybe in that top picture. So if you're in the middle of the field, if you do your Pythagorean theorem with triangles and all that, you're probably maybe 5-10 degrees off, if you're in the center of the field. If you're right up on it, this is where you're setting up, you're going to have a good view of the sky this way, but not going that direction. So just think about that. But again, when I went, it wasn't terribly crowded in November, but you want to get there early. You want to set your gear up, kind of claim your spot and get everything squared away. All right. So what's it like up there? You really, really want to get up there on a moonless night. So you're going to want to consult your lunar calendars to make sure that, hey, the moon's not out, because you really want to see the big star of the show, which is the Milky Way. The clear night sky is astounding. And I say that because it is just absolutely awash in the higher magnitude stars that we don't typically see here, because great time to talk about the light pollution. It's phenomenal. And so one of the issues I did run into was I do have a Celestron that has plate solving, and it was having a hard time getting a lock on where it was at. And I actually think it could be because just the sheer number of stars in the sky, it's just a little bit overwhelming in that regard, but it's absolutely gorgeous. The coolest thing up there is the Milky Way by far. Seeing the stars is great. Seeing all the cool things with the telescope's wonderful, but seeing the Milky Way, vivid. And I'm not talking you're squinting, you're looking at it really hard to see it. By about 8:30 at night, after the sun goes down in the fall, it goes from one end of the horizon to the other. It is breathtaking. At times I was like, what planet am I even on? So it's pretty neat. It's also extremely dark. The park does really, really good light control. They have a berm between the parking lot and the open field, so it's blocking the headlights. I wish we could do something like that with, our site out at Alpha Ridge, but that's probably a lot of money we don't have, and the county's not going to do it. So you definitely want to have your red flashlights. Another thing that I'm going to start doing is put some kind of low-level light or some type of reflective tape on my gear, because literally, if I'm up there, you can walk into somebody that's maybe a couple feet away, and that's how dark it is. Their tagline is the Milky Way is so bright, it's going to cast your shadow. And I don't know, maybe in the summer when you're getting the, center of the galaxy, but again, it's not quite that bright, but it is really vivid. And for me, what strikes me is that this is the sky that our forefathers had, and we've lost it over the last 100 years or so. It's a light pollution. But I am not a good photographer, and I'm not a good astrophotographer. These are just pictures that we took, and these are some of the better ones I got. And these are actually taken with a cell phone. That's how good you can see the Milky Way when you're up there. It is not hard at all to find. And so I can only imagine what somebody with photography skills than myself would be able to do. But it's inspiring to see this and just the clarity that it comes in up there. But again, not a great astrophotographer. I had just gotten my SeeStar right before we went. And instead of doing I'm going to do a 2-3 hour exposure on something, I was like a kid in a candy store taking pictures of everything. And even on relatively short exposures, you can see, the Ribbon Nebula here, really good detail. You got part of the North American Nebula, Dumbbell, I think that's Beehive over there. But the one thing I also want to point out too is look how dark the sky is in the background. Mm-hmm. That should really resonate with us, because that is what you're looking for. I've never seen stuff like that. I do want to get back up there at some point, hopefully this year, things keep going. But I want to get back up there and spend a little bit more time and just maybe plan out my night a little more. And I do a lot of optical stuff, but I also want to set up my SeeStar for success. So, yep. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how to plan it. So hopefully I've inspired you to go. So let's talk about how to get that maximum trip out of this. Again, really want to look at that lunar calendar. If you're up there during a full moon or a partial moon, you're probably going to get the Milky Way washed out. I haven't been up there during that period, but that's what they really recommend. Just kind of looking at the historical weather forecast, what types of periods are better or worse than others. the biggest thing I would say is if you want to have a nice successful trip, plan a couple days. If you go up there, that's a long trip for one night, right? Like if you go up there 250 miles and 250 back, that's 500 miles round trip. What happens if you get a washed out night? You know, you get up there and you can't see anything at all. That's not going to be a lot of fun. So my personal recommendation is give yourself about 3 nights. And if you get one good night, it will probably be mythical. If you get 3 good nights, that's like hitting the lottery. And so have your lodging scheduled before you go up there, whatever you choose to use, because like I said, you're not just going to be able to pop into a Holiday Inn. I don't think there's a Holiday Inn within 100 miles of this place. So it's not real easy to secure lodging at the last minute like it is, you know, in a built up area like we have, but that's why they also have a nice dark sky park too, right?
Oops.
That's all right. The other thing I would tell you too is, as I said, there's really cell phone issues up there in the park. If you have a device that requires a cell signal to collect that GPS, plan ahead. And that's why I put the long lat on the front of the slide. It's easy to find, but just have that with you. Have a contingency plan if your equipment absolutely relies on using your cell phone. The other thing, it's kind of like what we're getting with, you know, Alpha Ridge, which is if you have a SeeStar or other common types of, you know, Wi-Fi enabled telescopes, it's going to just be a wash in Wi-Fi, and you don't want someone accidentally hijacking your SeeStar. So I've taken mine, I've renamed it, I password protected it, so then that way just prevents somebody from accidentally, you know, locking it up for me. But that's the long and the short about Cherry Springs. I hope I've encouraged you to want to go up there at some point. Trust me, it's just a phenomenal experience, and it's pretty easy to do versus jumping on a plane and flying halfway across the world. Hopefully I've given you some ideas about how to plan that trip appropriately so that you have a good time and maximize it. But does anybody have any questions about Cherry Springs?
I do.
Okay.
Is it possible to drive your car up to into the field to drop your gear off, or do you have to lug it all the way from the parking lot?
Pretty sure it's lug-in. I don't recall seeing
Ah.
any place where you could access it. I did see some pretty big like Dobbs and stuff like that up there. You'd see like a team of people carrying things. So yeah, I don't think you can just drive in the field, and that's probably so they don't tear up the field is my guess. But I did see some pretty big scopes up there.
We have
So is
another question
Okay.
from Jose. Is his hands up?
I can actually answer that question because they had a change of rules last year. So you can drive to the area where you can put a tent and stuff, like the camping area. And from there, there's a pretty easy access to the field where you can like bring your car and then drop your stuff, but you can no longer drive in the field anymore, even if it is in the morning. I believe it's because they install a bunch of new like electrical posts and stuff, so you can plug your telescope and stuff over there in the field. So yeah, you can no longer drive in the field, but you can drive all the way towards the camping area that is like maybe if you bring a pulling cart, you will be like less than 30 seconds away from the field.
Thanks, Jose.
Any other questions? If not, I will turn it over to our next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up.
That's me, right?
Indeed.
All right. Thanks for these awesome pictures, Jim. This is cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. I will basically also say thank you to Mike because everything he said applies to the Texas Star Party too. Planning, be prepared, apply updates to your laptops, etc. So everything that he said applies here. So I'm going to skip some stuff. The Texas Star Party. A little further down, third bullet, probably the darkest skies you'll ever see unless you go to Hawaii or Chile. So this is basically a presentation that I gave in 2013. So those of you that were members of HAL that long ago, you've seen this before, so sorry for boring you. The Texas Star Party is 7 nights. That's awesome. So it allows you to pretty much guarantee you're going to get at least 2 or 3 really good nights. And by really good, I mean like the most amazing skies you may have ever seen. This year's is May 10th to 17th. It's usually in the spring, so it's galaxy season, but the summer Milky Way rises 2, 3, 4 a.m., something like that. And I'll show you a picture of that. It's hosted at the Prude Guest Ranch, which is a working ranch, kind of a conference facility. It's really cool. It's nearly a mile in altitude and it's out in the middle of absolute nowhere. Like driving in, there's nothing. There's nothing for hours getting there. And when my wife and I drove there the first time, we were driving on I-10 and the external temperature on our dashboard said it was 112. And you're driving through there and there's nobody and there's nothing. And yeah, it's amazing. The Star Party itself is quite large. There are usually hundreds of attendees. It's really well set up. There's AC electrical power all over the observing field. Registration's not all that cheap. Don't camp. All right. Get yourself a spot in the bunkhouse. Just don't even think about tent camping. And part of the reason for that is it'll be in the mid 80s during the day and can get down to freezing at night. So bring a wide array of clothing and gear. You can leave your dew prevention equipment at home, but you better bring chapstick and a tarp. And that's actually really important because the observing field is pretty much dirt. And so you're walking around all night going back and forth between your table and your scope to look at your star charts, etc. You're kicking up dust. And that stuff, for those of you who know me, I'm a visual observer. I had a Dob. Your mirror is coated in dust. So get yourself a tarp, lay it down, stake it down, put your stuff on top of that. The Star Party has a great raffle, fantastic speakers, quite a few vendors, real bathrooms and showers. Bunkhouses have both heat and air conditioning, very important. And the local area has lots of really cool touristy things to do. McDonald Observatory's got to be on your bucket list. It's way cool. And Fort Davis is just a really, really neat town. Leave your cell phone at home, but there is very good Wi-Fi on the field. Next slide. I've been there twice. The first time my wife and I drove, and it took us 3 days to get there. It's quite a drive, but part of going to dark sky sites like this is the adventure. So that was a lot of fun and has a lot to say for it. The second time I went, I actually placed an ad on Cloudy Nights that I wanted to rent a large Dobsonian. And somebody actually responded. I couldn't believe it. So I actually flew into Abilene, rented a minivan, and then drove to the house of this guy that had an 18-inch obsession. Picked it up, drove it down to Texas Star Party, had a great week, and then drove it back and flew home from Abilene. But like Mike said, this is a long trip. You really need to plan in advance to make sure that you're not forgetting anything. Because trust me, if you forget that one cable that makes your whole rig go, and you're there for 7 days having traveled 1,900 miles, that's going to be lousy. Next slide. This is the Prude Ranch layout. And gives you some idea of the buildings and the observing fields, etc. The important part really is this upper field, which I think is shown on the next slide. Nope. That's what the bunks look like in the bunkhouse. And yes, those are Dora the Explorer sheets. I thought that would be kind of cute. And bring your own bedding is the deal there. And I had several I had several suitcases because I had DSLR camera lenses, AstroTrack, etc., kind of astrophotography gear in one of them, and then clothes and other stuff in the other one. All right, next slide. It is a working ranch, and there are horses on it, which I thought was really cool. Next slide. That is the upper observing field, and as you can see, there are quite a few scopes. The years that I went, there were over 500 attendees. I think the number of attendees may have dropped over the last 15 years, but still, this gives you an idea, again, of the horizons, how flat it is, etc. And this is looking north, actually. So next slide. That's a younger and heavier me. Thank God for Ozempic. I don't look like that anymore. Sorry. This is a 36-inch Obsession owned by Larry Mitchell. I saw the Sombrero Galaxy through this, and it was like it was 3D. It was mind-blowing. But these are the kinds of scopes that are all over the field. Next slide. And this is a fisheye lens DSLR shot. I think it was 2 minutes, something like that. That's Venus, the really, really bright thing, and then Orion's down and to the left. But this gives you a sense of what Mike was talking about. There are so many stars that it is really hard. It's disorienting to find your familiar constellation. Like, I would challenge any of you to find, say, Taurus, right? There's just so many stars. Also, on this particular night, I was looking over there at Venus, and I was like, man, I didn't think there was that much moisture in the air. This is Texas, right? That's not moisture in the air. That's the zodiacal light. I thought that was Venus lighting up moisture in the air. No, that's the zodiacal light. It's kind of a triangular brightness that is basically dust in the solar system. Next slide. Next slide, Victor.
Sorry, my mouse has gone berserk.
So this is a shot from later that same night. And the important bit is, and I don't have control of the mouse, but you can probably see starting at about bottom center and then sloping up towards the upper left. Yes, there you go, Victor. Nice job. That is the Gegenschein. So this is basically, again, dust in the plane of our solar system. Crazy. Now, I couldn't see that with the naked eye. I did see the zodiacal light with the naked eye, but this is something you can't see except in outrageously dark skies. Next slide. And there you go. Now, does it look this sharp, naked eye? No. Imagine this slightly defocused, and that's what it would look like naked eye, but it was bright enough that when it started to rise on the western horizon, you thought, oh man, I didn't think it was sunrise yet. And it turns out that's just the core of the Milky Way. Next slide.
Oh, is that it?
Apparently. So there you go.
Okay, that was excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Chris?
Yeah, I do. Same question in terms of the car and getting your equipment out. How does that work?
So when you saw the picture of the observing field, there are literally car lanes. Victor, if you back up a couple slides to the map of the Prude Guest Ranch. Yeah, so actually, okay, there you go. You see the blue lines? Those are essentially car lanes. So equipment's not allowed to be set up in those lanes. And then if you go forward one slide or two, there you go. See the person's car, right? So you can basically pull right up and unload. And on the first day and the last day, there's obviously a lot of cars, but it's less than 30 feet at most between where your car is and where you set up. And again, because it's 7 nights, right? You're going to set up your scope and then you're going to leave it there. So that's another thing you need to bring. You see all these scope covers, you need to bring a cover.
Yeah. Yeah, that I was going to ask whether you just simply leave your equipment in place. And I guess that's another good reason to have the tarp there during the day. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, it's not necessarily a secure facility, but when you're surrounded by several hundred amateur astronomers who are in general really good folks, like you don't need to worry about leaving your scope or stuff. But I brought my eyepiece case back to the dorm room every night,
yeah,
I've never
eliminate
heard of anybody.
temptations.
Exactly. I've never heard of anybody losing their 31 Nagler. So, but yeah, everybody leaves their equipment set up for the whole week. Any other questions?
Okay.
I have a question.
Thank
we
you,
had a
Chris.
question. Sorry,
Sorry.
my bad.
I'm new to all of this. If we go, do like people with the really huge telescopes, do they let other people look into it? Or do we just bring our own equipment?
Yes to both questions.
Okay. Perfect.
So bring your own equipment, but again, that you're traveling to Texas, right? That's the challenge. That's why if you have a large telescope, you've either got to throw it in your car and drive 3 days, or you've got to ship it there, and it's a challenge. The logistics are not easy. But bring something, at least binoculars. Honestly, binoculars and a lounge chair, you'll still have an utterly fantastic time. Because, like Mike said, it's dark skies on steroids. But particularly folks like Larry Mitchell with the 36-inch knob, they know that's an attention grabber. And even veteran astronomers want to look through that thing. So anybody with like an 18-inch or above is generally going to be pretty friendly if you walk up and say, "Hi, what you looking at? Can I look through?" Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Amateur astronomers are a friendly bunch, and anybody with the nice thing though is if you've got something less than 18 inches, nobody's going to bother you.
Ours
Yeah,
is definitely less than 18 inches.
Yeah, if you want to look through this telescope, you better not be afraid of heights.
Oh yeah, no, there's a very
that?
large ladder. Yeah,
Ladder right
that
there in the back.
Wow.
if
This
you
is
have
Todd, so the eyepiece is up near the front.
Yeah.
I
Chris,
guess the
is this-
eyepiece hidden on the other side of this.
Chris, is there some sort of a star club or astronomy club that kind of like uses this at other times, or is it just used during the Texas Star Party, as far as you know?
So Prude Guest Ranch is exactly that. It is a working ranch, and so they host events like this for lots of different organizations. It's not run by a particular astronomy club or anything like that. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the only astronomy event held at that facility over the course of the year.
Okay.
I also forgot to mention they've got a fantastic cafeteria, and the staff on site provide awesome meals, lunch and dinner. They don't do breakfast because nobody's going to be up for breakfast.
Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I think I ran a little long. My apologies, Victor.
No,
That's okay.
you did
It's
great.
good.
It was
Good.
great,
Great.
great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You need to go to the restroom. Do you mind just grabbing yourself for a little bit? All you need to do is just hit the space
Well,
bar.
we were gonna drop it out into my.
Oh, right. Bad. Hey, are you guys seeing a slide now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I'll be right back.
All right,
Hit
thanks.
space bar if you need to move forward.
Hey, so I'm Bill Vanderlinde. As of 2 months ago, I'm now your HAL board secretary. And you may have seen me in some of the star programs. I have an 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain grain. And 3 years ago, my wife and I and my daughter went on vacation in Hawaii. And as part of that, we took a tour up to the observatories. It's about a dozen different major pieces of equipment up there. And it's also a pretty spectacular view. So I'm going to talk about that. So this was a commercial tour. I think it was around $75 a person. And for that, they provided us van transportation from our hotel up to Mauna Kea. Not particularly spectacular meal, a self-guided tour of the visitor center, and then sunset viewing at the summit. Now, this did not include access to the buildings themselves, which are not open to the public, at least not to us. And then they wanted us off the summit by like 30 minutes after sunset. There was a place a little bit down the mountain, just sort of beyond a shoulder, so we're out of direct line of sight, where we could set up telescopes, and our tour guide brought a 11-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, of course, with the folded optics. That's very convenient for transportation, and a SeeStar S50. So the SeeStar got some really nice pictures. Unfortunately, there was a communication issue. I think some of you may have had, I've heard of people having similar problems. So we never actually got any of those photos, so I don't have photos to show you. And I did not bring any equipment with me other than my cell phone. So I'm going to spend probably more of our time here talking about the observatory and a little bit about why it's located there. Oh, and last but not least, they provided us with parkas, because that's something people don't usually bring with them to Hawaii, but it was darn cold up there. Okay, so what do you want when you are looking for a place to put an observatory? Well, ideally near the equator, so you can see both the north and south celestial sphere. And that is a typo. It's actually at 19 degrees north latitude, which is not actually that close to the equator, but it is the southernmost part of the United States. You want to be at a high altitude to get above the atmosphere. Mauna Kea is 13,800 feet. Pretty good. It's quite far away from light pollution. The nearest major city, Hilo, is 25 miles away. And most of the area around the mountain is either a state park or unpopulated. You want to have good access to the observatory site so that scientists can come and visit. Mauna Kea is about 62 miles from Kona International via a fairly nice major freeway, the only one on the Big Island, which is called Route 200. And I will come back and talk about that a little bit more. And finally, you want it to be geologically stable. This is where things get a little dicey because Mauna Kea is not extinct. It is a dormant volcano, and there are other volcanoes nearby that are highly active. So let's get the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm happy to do it.
I'm doing the slides. They're all- Yes. So who's been to Hawaii? Anybody else been there? Yes. Okay. So then you're aware there's 8 major islands and a bunch of little ones. About 60% of the total land is in this one large island, which is also named Hawaii. So people usually just call it the Big Island. And you might think being the biggest island, that's where most people live, but that is not correct. Most people actually live on Oahu because it has a large natural harbor called Pearl Harbor. And also the volcanoes there are all extinct, whereas the ones on the Big Island are active. And the reason for that is the Pacific Plate is moving westward over this hot spot in the mantle at a few inches per year. So you've got Mauna Loa, largest volcano on Earth, as measured relative to the seafloor. It's actually taller than Mount Everest. Kilauea is actually more active. It's right over the hotspot. And then there's another one, which is created Seamount Luihi, which eventually will become part of the Big Island. As you go further west, the volcanoes are older and older. They're all extinct, and they're also eroded down. So if you want to get to the maximum height, you're talking about the Big Island, but the Big Island is volcanically active. So there's 5 volcanoes. Ko'ahala is extinct. Mauna Kea hasn't erupted in about 3,000 years, but it could erupt again. And these other 3 are active, especially Kilauea, which is more or less continuously active. In 2018, actually, lava came down the slopes and destroyed about 700 houses. It actually reached the ocean and created more land, adding to the island. When we were there, the lava was contained within the crater, producing a lava lake. So this is the first photograph I'm giving you, which is actually my photo. And it's pretty spectacular, especially at night. And you can also see the clouds coming off of it. That's sulfur dioxide. And if the gods are smiling on us, this movie. Okay, so these lava geysers are about maybe 50, 60 feet tall. Yeah, and one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen, although I did enjoy the observatory too. Okay. So I think I need
pick it
to
up again?
yeah, let me see. I got to go. The arrow was going to do it. Yeah, okay. Okay, so Mauna Loa hadn't erupted since 1985, but about a month before we left for our trip, it did erupt for the first time in 38 years, which got people on the island very excited because you can see the area which it produces can produce lava flowing into is covering a large part of the island, including areas that are inhabited. So fortunately, it didn't go to any habited areas, but it went sort of north and immediately wiped out this road, which leads to a weather station on top of Mauna Loa itself. And clearly, you're not going to be driving anywhere on that road. This photograph I took from a helicopter tour. And then if you look at this map, this is showing from the caldera, primarily it flowed north and actually got within 2 miles at Route 200 I mentioned earlier, very close to the road up to the observatory. So if this had been a little more flowing a little more further north, we may not have actually been able to do the tour. Fortunately, it did stop, and that made the island people very happy because that freeway connects the two major cities on the island, Hilo and Kona. And without that, it's a major inconvenience. But fortunately, that did not happen. So we're able to take the tour. And so our van brought us up first to the visitor center, which is at about 9,000 feet. And that's where they served us our meal, which I think was in the out back on some picnic tables. Well, it was sustenance. It wasn't spectacular. So inside, there's a number of exhibits. The one that I took a picture of was the diorama, because I really love dioramas. And this shows you the area at the summit, which has the observatories. So we were parked on that west ridge next to the University of Hawaii 2.2 meter observatory. But the really neat ones were over here to the west. And what you have here is the Subaru. The two that are together are the Keck Observatory, and then to the left of that is the NASA infrared. So lots and lots of instruments here, some radio telescopes, which also like to be above the atmosphere. But the Kecks are sort of the premier instruments. They're actually 10 meters, 33 feet. When they were built 30 years ago, those were the largest in the world. Now I think they're not number 3 and number 4. There's a bunch of others that are, 20, 30 feet in size. And of course, you can't actually build a mirror that big, so they're made up of hexagonal sections. And they have actuators in the back, so we have real-time adaptive optics and things like that. So you're going to see those in the pictures I'm showing. So yeah, we were a little past the visitor center, up above the snow line. There's a radio dish, which is part of the Very Long Baseline Array. So this is a number of radio telescopes around the world which work together and use interferometry to get very high resolution radio images of the sky. So here we are at the summit. You can see we are above the clouds. And looking west, you can see the Subaru, the Keck, and the NASA infrared. Subaru, by the way, is the Japanese word for the Pleiades. And it also means good fortune, something like that in Japanese. So it's a name that's also used by a car company, which you may have noticed their logo is a star cluster. Okay, so if you look sort of in the distance, that is Maui, which is about 60 miles to the west, the next island over. So you can see quite a distance here when you're up above the clouds, 14,000 feet.
That's the clear air.
Looking a little to the southeast, that cloud is not water vapor, that is sulfur dioxide. That's Kilauea, which is pointed out. We were there a couple of nights before watching that sulfur dioxide come out of the lava lake. Okay, so we were actually parked next to this University of Hawaii. Like I said, we couldn't go in, but that's my close-up of the observatory. Okay, so and then this is sunset over the ocean. Pretty spectacular. Really enjoyed that. So then we drove down a little bit. It's a nice spot, and our tour guide brought out the Schmidt-Cassegrain. Looked at some star clusters, and what I remember specifically was the Pleiades. SeeStar took some nice pictures. That's just something I pulled off the web of typical SeeStar pictures. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those photos. In terms of the naked eye, the Milky Way has been described by the last two speakers was absolutely stunning. My eyes aren't that great. I haven't actually seen Andromeda recently, but I could see it there. And then we also saw, as someone else mentioned, the zodiacal light, which is even may know is just dust that's in the plane of the ecliptic, and that scatters sunlight. This is a picture which is taken on Mauna Kea, not by me, and you can see it quite clearly. So the one of the photos I want to show you was taken on my iPhone. So, and this was actually down at ground level. I was taking family pictures, and I was stunned to see that there was foreground objects like a tree, and I could also see Orion, and not only the seven major stars, but even the sword, and you can kind of see the nebula. So what I learned from that, and I've started looking more into, is that you can do a lot of interesting astrophotography with an iPhone. It has an absolutely amazing sensitivity and range of dynamic range. Thank you. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation. Do we have any questions?
Can you go back to that? So you say ground level, do you mean at the base of the
I was actually at Kilauea.
so you were on the ground level at the top of the mountain?
No, we were taking pictures at Kilauea, so that's much lower than Mauna Kea. And it was giving off sulfur dioxide. So this is actually not a good place to do astrophotography. Okay. It just happens to be the only astrophotography picture, like sort of thing that I took.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have two questions. One, like when you take these tours up there, how much time do they give you up on the mountaintop? And then the other question I have is, with these active volcanoes, are they ash producing, or are they kicking up ash into the upper atmosphere, causing some of these problems? Because it looks like you're above the clouds, but if you're at the base level, obviously it's gonna, pollute the atmosphere pretty good.
I think up on the summit, what did we have? About an hour before sunset?
Yeah, at least. I thought we had a lot of time. But we definitely had a lot of ash where we were staying.
Yeah, they call it volcanic smog.
Yeah, it was very heavy.
Vlog, yeah.
Yeah, it was very
And
heavy.
that was very heavy while we were there
Unpleasant.
because it was erupting.
We were there in 2018. We took a tour from Hilo,
Oh,
State Hilo,
yeah.
and probably very similar. We went up to the summit about an hour or so up there, then went back down to the visitor center with naked eye stargazing. We actually got to see the Centauri system, as well as we were there June. Then what they call Maui's fish hook, of course, with the scorpion. But then we were also in Volcano and got to experience the fog, but the earthquakes as well as some of the ash and the glow. We actually got within a couple of miles of one of the fissure vents.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the only lava lake in the world that you can actually just drive up to and personally own.
And this is
Yeah.
all that was closed. The whole thing was open, was routed up and going through the park.
Okay, so I guess we were lucky that it was erupting, but not erupting too much.
Yeah. The guys were trying to figure out where to take people safely, and when it wasn't restricted, because some of it was closed off. We were going into sugarcane fields or where else they pull off the side of the road. Got some really good shots from 10 miles away.
To answer your original question, I don't think that the sulfur dioxide affects the observatory. I believe it's far enough away and you're high enough up.
Yeah, when it interacts with the cloud layer, I think that dissipates a lot of ET.
Yeah. Are you allowed, do you have to have a guide? Are you allowed to just go up there on your own with your own telescope? Do people do that?
Yes, I believe that is allowed. The summit is open up until sunset.
Oh, but I
But-
mean, like,
but-
not all night? You kept.
No, we had to go down a few hundred yards, maybe half a mile, I'm not sure. And then there was a spot just over the shoulder where you're out of view of the summit. And that there's a place there that's specifically for setting up telescopes. There are other groups who are there also, not just us.
Victor, they take out much extra insurance that you can on the rental car, because the rental car companies are really, really strict about it. The roads are in such bad shape.
Yeah.
About very low gear. That's why it's worth paying the money to have somebody drive you up there.
Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
experienced.
I would recommend that. There's also a shortage of cars on the Big Island, or at least the ones when we were there. We were supposed to get an SUV and we were lucky to get anything.
You're channeling my presentation that's coming up.
Okay, one more question.
I was just wondering if at altitude or elevation rather, is there a breathing problem? Do you have any difficulty breathing?
Uh, I wouldn't say so. I've been 12,000 feet before, and no, I wouldn't say there's any
Okay.
breathing issue.
That's everybody's different, I suppose.
Mhm.
Right.
All right, well, thank you very much.
I'm going straight to my presentation, Jim, so I won't get to show your very snazzy zoom in.
No worries. I'd much rather see your presentation anyway.
And also I kind of misled you. I told you I was going to the Atacama Desert, which was our original plan, but we wound up changing, so we never went to the Atacama Desert. So sorry if anybody had any false advertising here, but we wound up staying around Santiago. The Atacama Desert is up around here somewhere, and we never made it outside. We never made it up there. I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, so this is this trip. So my wife had a school trip to Brazil, and then I said, okay, I'll go with you on that if you come with me to Chile. So so this trip was piggybacked coming from Rio, and so I had to, travel all over the place with astronomy gear. So I had to make sure that I was, carrying stuff that was easy to bring. Also, I didn't want to check bags because I just didn't want, the American Tourister commercial with the throwing the bags around. So I wanted to do carry-ons only. And so I had to go through and do a little bit of research in terms of how large your bag can be and your backpack. And it turns out that the international flights are kind of the same, although it's specific to different airlines can pull their own little things, but in general, we were on a major airline, and they let me go on with the same bag. So, and then the other thing you have to be worried about is batteries, and you're limited to 100 watt hours, and you can have 2 of them. And then you can have a little bit bigger if you get prior approval, but I didn't want to deal with all that. And I think I just read something today that Southwest was changing it to that you could only have one of these 100 watt hours, and you're not allowed to put it in the overhead bin. You have to have it with you. You can't check it because they don't want the batteries to, have an issue and cause a fire in the baggage compartment where nobody can get to it. If you have it with you, the flight attendant can, put the fire out. So anyways, if you're going to fly anywhere with batteries, check, because they are always changing those. And we, because this is a very, not a common thing for me to go down here, and I was worried about the weather, we kind of didn't lock in all of our arrangements. So we left some flexibility in the plans. So here's what I was talking about, the mobile rig. So I just had a Nikon camera, 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8. I had a little ASI 294 with a small filter wheel. I brought my actual bona fide mount that I use everywhere. It was this Strainwave 135 Rainbow Astro. And all that fit in here. And then I had this bag right here. Inside of this bag, I had the 2 batteries, and then the various cables and hand controllers and mouse and stuff like that. So these two things came with me on the airplane. This tripod, when it was all kind of scrunched down, I just put it in my checked baggage. And so here's what it looks like when it's set up. And I have I found a big rock to kind of stabilize the thing. The rock was sourced locally. I didn't. So for this trip, I had this great plan. It kind of got thrown out the window at the last minute because of the big snowstorm that we had here in January. I'll talk about that in a minute, but so I had I had like this is what I want to do early, this is what I want to do in the middle of the night, this is what I want to do, right before the sun comes up. And I don't have to generally stay up with everything all night because, I have my automated scheduler doing the switching targets and whatnot. So I had the good plan before leaving. I did basically same thing that we heard earlier in terms of, updating all your software and just make sure that this particular rig, because I have a few different things that I do, make sure my everything was working right for this thing. I even spent a whole bunch of time with my sensor tilt thing trying to get the thing as flat as possible. So now we're flying into Santiago, Chile from Rio de Janeiro. And it's like a 5-hour flight. The last thing you see as you're going down are these mountains. This is just my cell phone out the window of the airplane. And these are the Andes at 13 or 14,000 feet. We didn't go to the tippy top of those, but you'll see where I was. But you can also see in this picture these little roads down here. These roads are like there's a lot of mining up in that area. So there's no humans other than miners, not people less than 18. So we wound up driving on roads like this, and we had the same experience with the rental car. We had to take pictures of the car before they knew we were gonna be on sketchy roads. So they had us do all that because they anyways, the other thing about this spot is this is really close to where there's been a couple of movies now about this thing that happened in 1972 where this plane went down in the middle of nowhere here, and people had to resort to cannibalism, and there's some rugby team from Paraguay or something.
Yeah.
It's really, really quite close to here where that was. And just coming in, you could see how without GPS and with everything, there could be a pilot error. You could see how they could mess up because, you really can't see these things through the clouds very well at all. Okay, so then we landed, and our original plan, we had scoped out hotels and everything. Originally, we were going to go to San Pedro de Atacama, another quick flight, couple hours to the north. January is the worst month and I really wanted to go there because everybody, Atacama Desert. But as it turns out, this was the forecast but the forecast for Santiago, or this is the mountain region right next to Santiago, this spot, this was the forecast down here. And so it was a no-brainer to just stay in this area around here. I was kind of hopeful that it was going to be, it was a 50-50 shot. You could have a week like this. I was watching Clear Sky. You could have a week like this at any given week in January, or a week like this. So, anyways, we decided to stay and not take that other flight, which was great because I had just finished flying, to Sao Paulo and then to Rio and then to Santiago. I was ready to not fly again. So then, but I didn't really do a lot of research on where to go in Santiago for astronomy. So this is the light pollution map view of the city of Santiago, the biggest city in Chile. And then you can see that it doesn't take very far. This scale, do I have the scale here? This is a couple-hour drive. Doesn't take far till you get to, very little or no light. These regions here, where I took that picture of the mountain peaks, is over here somewhere. So you get down to Bortle 0 in some spots, or Bortle 1. It's relatively free, because it's really, really hard driving there. The roads, there's some good roads, but there's a lot of not good roads. And there's some very posh resorts too, which I'll talk about in a minute. Anyways, yeah, the roads were kind of like this. Like we took probably 25 pictures of different road signs that were amusing like this, that were different than that were, very, very sketchy. Anyways, so we looked around and we said, all right, and we found this, we found two places that we really liked. This one, and this one. So I'll talk about this one because we went here first. We really wanted to go to this place first, but they weren't open in the first few days of the week, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so they were open Thursday. So we were basically going to stay here Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday we stayed here. This was the the not nice place. This is the view from the crappy place we stayed at. This is the view of the Andes Mountains. And this is the posh place that we stayed. My wife really wanted to stay there because they were like, oh, we can get a massage, and my wife was all about living it up. So as it turns out, just getting here was like, it was crazy. The road to get here was, I've lived in Africa. I know what bad roads are like. This was a bad road. And we later learned upon, so if you ever go down there, this is the off season because it's normally a ski resort, and apparently people helicopter in. There's a helicopter pad behind this tree, and there's like helicopter skiing on the other side of this mountain. So very, very posh people come here in the wintertime. In the summertime, it's like the off season, nobody comes there. So the rates are, summertime down there. January is the summertime down there. So we got, it's reasonable to stay there as a normal human being. But I don't think I would ever even try to go there in the wintertime. I can't even imagine. But getting there was rough. Next time I'll take a helicopter, I suppose. They have a 10-inch Dob on site that you can look through, and I got some amazing views. Once I showed the kid there how to actually use it properly. So yeah, this was the other thing worth noticing is that it's 1340, so it's basically a mile above sea level. This other place was a little higher than that, 1849, at near those Baños Morales. Baños means bathroom, but it also means hot springs, and so this place is near some hot springs we'll talk about in a second. Anyways, so some lessons learned from imaging in the Andes is that polar alignment was surprisingly easy with Nina's polar alignment routine. Like I was kind of worried it wasn't going to work well. You can kind of get close by using the pointer stars and the Southern Cross to find the South Celestial Pole. So you can do that if you can see them at the hour that you're setting up. But yeah, so there's no North Star. There's no real star. That dot there is just meant to indicate the pole. There's no star there. You just have to guess where it is. There's no Polaris. So anyhow, you get close, and then Nina's polar alignment routine worked really well. The other thing I learned, like in a awful state of stress, was that like my driver thought I was at sea level, and I've never had a problem with that before. But now that I'm 6,000 feet above sea level, I was kind of worried that it was going to knock my tracking off a little bit. because I was not guiding. I had unguided. I didn't have a guide scope on my gear. The other thing about being in the Andes Mountains is, as we've heard before, it's really dark. There's just, you don't even need to do any background subtraction. And like with and without narrowband filters basically just make all the bright stars less bright. Like it's almost, I'll show you in a second, like you see a lot of the same nebulosity. At least I thought I did. The thing that I didn't do well was like go to sleep. I stayed up too much and so I wish I would have, well, also because I had just so few days. I was so excited to be there. So yeah, speaking of things to do during the day, the Santiago is like a really nice big major city. There's wineries nearby. Chilean wine is, it was like legit good when the samples that we had. And then you can go to the west and go to the coast and you get to this Valparaiso where there's lots of street artists and, food, and it's kind of like a beach town. And then when you're in the Andes, it's kind of like being in New Mexico. It reminded me of New Mexico on steroids, kind of. It was just really rugged, really dry, really beautiful. But then there would be this, all of a sudden you'd find this spot where there was, glacier melt runoff waterfall in the middle of nowhere. And then here's the hot tubs that we went to, and this place here is like there's like camping in this big field, like for $10 a day. And this is at 8,000 feet. This is at 8,000 feet too, this glacier. Getting here, this was another road that was ridiculous. Getting here on this road was so scary. You had to be really cooperative with people because it got choked down and there's people coming both ways. You have to, anyways, it's not an area where this is kind of like what we heard before. There's not a lot going on. If you just some hiking and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just middle of nowhere. So then what did I actually do with my imaging? So just to give you a sense of dark versus not dark, this is a comparison using the same gear of a single 90-second frame from Bortle 6 Skies in Maryland, in Ellicott City, not too far from Alpha Ridge. And this is a single 60-second frame from Baños Morales in Chile. So so this was same processing and just a very minimal processing of with the similar stretch, using this stretch which stretches the background up to the same level roughly. So with the background stretched up to the same level, this is the difference. And if you zoom in, you can see how much more you get with one frame here versus a single frame from Maryland. So that's just to give you a sense of what kind of difference you'll see. And then here's the same thing, but including the horse head and with the other filter, the HAL filter. So like this is 60-second frame with HAL. Here's a 60-second frame with just UVI or cut. Like if you just look at this amount of nebulosity you see here, like I guess you do see some more. Anyways, and then if you compare the two, if you zoom in on the nebula, so again, it's 1 60-second frame from Chile versus a 90-second frame. You can see that, the dark skies make a difference. There's just more contrast, more, the darks are darker. And then I processed this is a single 60-second with like, the regular processing you might do in PixInsight. And this is 2 HALs. You can see I have these little streaks. I think that's like artifacts of the camera. That's when you stack a bunch of images with dithering, that all that stuff goes away. But that is just crazy for 60-second, two 60-second exposures and one 60-second exposure to get this much on the these are both from Chile. So hooray for dark skies. So then this is then I just have 3 pictures of what I actually took photos of with that rig down there. This is M46 and M47, 25 minutes with the UV-IR cut filter. If I should probably have zoomed in. This is that little nebula, that little planetary nebula that's in there. You can see I have a camera with a stop down lens, so I have these artifacts, these, you know, spikes. And then this was 70, these I submitted to the last 2, the next 2 pictures you've seen already if you were at the last couple of meetings, because I sent these in to Jim. This is 75 minutes of H alpha and 55 minutes of regular light. And this is the Large Magellanic Cloud with all its craziness. This is the Tarantula Nebula here. So, and then this is what I was really excited about when I did my planning. This is 400 minutes. This was over 3 nights, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 3 nights, about 600 minutes of light on this gum nebula. So I had,
Also, it looks like why is it called so?
you know, I've given up trying to figure out how people name things. A lot of times they were named a long time ago before you had equipment like this that could really resolve things. So, you know, it's what the person saw, whoever named it.
Maybe it looks like a bubble gum, blowing bubble gum.
Yeah, maybe. That's a good one.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. So my summary of my trip was I feel like I only skimmed the iceberg. It was a week. It was a really, really good experience. And I really want to go back there. That the coastline of Chile from the Patagonia region to the north, that coastline is as long as the whole US is wide. It's and the whole thing is coast, like beach, and then you just go very, very few miles inland and you get to these Andes Mountains. So that I feel like the terrain that I saw was pretty amazing, and I want to go back and just, you know, drive around more and see more of it. So the only bad thing I could say about the trip was that I had like coming up on the last day, I was like, "Ah, I got all the light I wanted on these 2 objects that I wanted." That last night was going to be my like gather a bunch of little light on different things. Like you were talking about being a kid in a cave, you wanted to get a few minutes on everything. And then the snowstorm hit, and you know, we were like, if we stay this last day, you know, we're gonna get stuck and sleep in an airport somewhere. Plus my kid was, you know, I didn't want to have to shovel the driveway. So we came back a day earlier, and other than that, like this was just quite an amazing trip, and I really, really want to go back. So that was my Chile trip. If anybody has any questions? Yeah, I have, we got a bunch, there's so many pictures of yeah, this from here to down here, that's 3,000 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Victor, I was surprised to hear you say the iffy weather forecasts. When January of 2018, had a trip to Chile, and both in Santiago and San Pedro, I thought it was like 350 days and nights of sunshine and dark skies. So surprising to hear that things are iffy now.
I just based on my I don't know, whatever research I did, it said that maybe I just got really unlucky. But from what I could tell, January was the least good month in Atacama.
Interesting. Gorgeous work. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. If you ever go stay at that Noi Puma Lodge, we were treated like royalty there. We were the only guests the first night we got there. We were the only people there. And the people that work in this hotel were used to like being very nice to people, but it was extra good because we were the only ones there.
Really
Okay,
nice.
well,
Thank you, Victor.
sure.
Great.
Let me get back into the main presentation here. I can find my mouse. Are you guys seeing that?
Yep.
Okay. So now I'm gonna go down and, oh, Wayne's here.
So in 2 weeks, Hubble turns 36 years old. Just for a point of reference, approximately 60% of the people alive today are less than 36 years old. And we've never known a time, that group of people have never known a time without the Hubble Space Telescope being in orbit. So it was launched in April 1990, and of course, it was always planned to have servicing missions to keep it running, and they actually completed 5 servicing missions to keep it updated and working. There are mechanisms that fail. And the last servicing mission 4, it's a different story, was May of 2009. So it's been, what was that, 15 years, 16 years since we've had a servicing mission, and it's still working. They're being careful with it. And its biggest problem right now biggest risk right now is probably the Earth's atmosphere, because the solar activity has been so high, the Earth's atmosphere is heated up and expanded, which means the atmosphere is thicker, it's getting more drag, and it's coming down slowly, but it's still coming down. So that's probably its biggest risk, lifetime risk. So, of course, over the 36 years, the images produced by the Hubble Space Telescope are numerous, iconic. They show up everywhere on movies, TV, you name it. You'll find Hubble images involved in it. So it's really pervasive within the whole world society culture. And of course, the main thing it was done for is to have science data, and the science data it's produced has literally revolutionized our understanding of the universe and helped us completely rewrite the textbooks in many, many fields. Not so much solar physics, but just about everything else. So in a couple of weeks, have a piece of cake in honor of Hubble. Next. And Hubble recently observed the expanding Crab Nebula. So the Crab Nebula in Taurus is the remains of a supernova that was observed primarily by the Chinese, or at least reported by the Chinese, in 1054. The Hubble Observatory hasn't been up that long. But it's had WIFPIC 2, Wide Field Planetary Camera 2 images from 1999, and they obtained Wide Field Camera 3 images in 2024. And because there were different cameras and filters, exposure times, all this kind of stuff, they reprocessed the Wide Field Planetary Camera 2 images in order to match the WIFC 3 images a little bit better. And they can easily see the nebula expanding. Of course, we've known the nebula was expanding. Spectroscopy shows that it's expanding at a rate of about 3.4 million miles per hour. And at the distance of about 6,500 light years, that means in the 25 years, it's going to expand by about 4 arc seconds, which is trivial observation from the Hubble. So they produced a nice little video, images and video.
So I click on the link?
No. Just next slide. And if you move the mouse over, you can start the video. So this is going to go through. So this is the 1999 image. and it'll cycle through. This is a 2024 image. It does this several times. So you literally see it expanding, and then when they go backwards, it contracts. It's not doing that. So it's very obvious. And if you go to the next slide, I have this.
Daniel, and regarding your question earlier, like who thought that was a crab?
So, next slide. What happened to it? There we go. So I've taken some close-ups of the images. So on the left side, I've got two regions. On the left side are the 1999 images. On the right side are the same part of the sky on the 2024 images. The green arrows point in the general direction of the pulsar. So you would expect the expansion to be anti-parallel to that arrow, that green arrow. And the red arrows are pointing to just a couple of obvious little knots. So in the upper left image, I'm pointing at the nice little loop of nebulosity there to the right of that star. And if you look at where it is over here, it's moved significantly farther up, anti-parallel to the pulsar direction. And similarly with that, again in the upper left image, there's a knot real close to that bright star. And if you look at it on the right-hand side, you can see it's moved again, anti-parallel. And of course, a different area of the nebula, the pulsar is in a different direction. And I've pointing out a bright knot of nebulosity that you can see in 2004 is 24 is a lot farther from the star angularly than it was in 1999. So
is that star very far behind?
Presumably it was all referenced to the star field. So anyway, so direct observations of the expanding supernova remnant. Next. Finally, the elephant in the room, of course, is the Artemis 2 mission around the moon. It, of course, launched on April Fool's Day in the early evening on the East Coast. The primary mission is to check out the Orion spacecraft and the whole launch system in preparation for an eventual moon landing. And they needed to also check out the ability to perform all the necessary maneuvers that a moon landing would require, like connecting, redocking with other parts of the system and stuff like that. And they were also going to observe portions of the moon that had been previously unseen by human eyes. Now, of course, we've got satellites that have gone around it. It's not that we don't know what's there, but it's literally the first time people have been able to look at it with their eyeballs. Okay, just because the Apollo missions all went up at different lunar phase, so the parts of the moon were actually unlighted and they couldn't see anything. So it was just black. So the major accomplishments as of a few days ago, because when I had to make the slides, they had a very precise launch and translunar trajectory burn. So much so that they actually canceled mid-course corrections and stuff because you're right on target. That's good news from a technology and logistical standpoint. Those astronauts have flown farther from the Earth than any humans ever. Apollo 13 had previously held that record, but they got beaten out by, I think, a good bit, several thousand miles, I believe, by Artemis 2. They finished their flyby of the moon on their free return direct trajectory, and so they're coming on their way home. They're roughly halfway back, I think. No, they're most of the way back. They're actually going to splash down tomorrow. Sorry. Part of their trajectory, they actually had a solar eclipse. They were far enough from the moon that they could see essentially the whole moon, and they could see the corona on both sides of the moon. And so they were told to watch for meteor strikes, and they actually saw 6 of them. So just with their eyes, I mean, they weren't doing fancy recording with sensitive things; they could just see them. So that was interesting. And of course, they've gotten beautiful photos of both the Earth and the moon, many of them, and I'm just going to pick out one here. So if you go to the next slide. So this was one of the first ones they produced. This was on the trip out. And of course, since the moon was nearly full, the Earth therefore was essentially new. So they're looking at the dark side of the Earth. And so you're able to see this is a 1/4 second long exposure at a very high ISO setting. So it's able to record the surface of the Earth as seen from reflected moonlight. So the light came from the sun, hit the moon, which was nearly full, reflected back toward the Earth, illuminated the Earth, and reflected to their camera lens. Okay, so this is the Earth is seen from moonlight. So this large area here is the Sahara Desert in northern Africa. And here, use the cursor. And that's the Spain and Portugal, the Straits of Gibraltar. And over on the right is South America, the east coast of South America. Well, no, actually all the way out here. Oh, yeah. And you can see, because it was nighttime, you can see city lights mostly along the coastlines.
Wow.
So that's the Earth. So you're basically seeing the whole Atlantic Ocean in the blue in the middle. Wow. Up at the very top, you can see the Aurora Australis. And opposite to it, you can see on the other side of the Earth, you can see the Aurora Borealis, the northern lights. You got a bright streak of sunshine coming through the Earth's atmosphere. Not sure why it's not red. It might be just overexposed. And you can't see it very well here, but all the way around the Earth, right above the surface, is a yellow line of sodium. There's a layer of sodium atoms up in the upper atmosphere, probably deposited by meteors, excuse me. And it glows from after being ionized and excited by sunlight, and it slowly releases its light. Down to the lower right, you can see Venus, the bright thing in Venus, and the glow you see is the zodiacal light that you've seen multiple times already today. And there's even a scattering of stars visible in this 1/4 second exposure, handheld exposure. They've had beautiful photographs. And I think that's it for me today. Any questions?
I have
Thank you, Wayne. That was great. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Thanks, Jim. Quick question, Wayne. How shocked were the folks at NASA that they actually saw 6 obvious, visually detectable meteor strikes?
Did they expect it? I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
How shocked, if at all, were they that they saw 6 ones?
I think they were surprised by the number. I'm not surprised. I don't think they were surprised that they were visible, given that they're occurring. I don't think they got any serious scientific measurements of the amount of energy, so I don't know that they know anything about the rocks that hit the moon to cause them. So I don't know if they were pea size or if they were boulder size. I don't know. But that's it. I think it's interesting information because it kind of hints that maybe there's a higher bombardment rate than they had previously thought, maybe. I'm speculating here.
That's kind of what I was wondering. Were they doing any simultaneous video or imaging?
I haven't heard of any, but so I can't say for sure.
There was a amateur pro-am effort to try to take video of the moon to see if we could kind of collaborate and coordinate, confirm some of the impacts. I haven't heard any feedback in terms of whether it was successful or not.
Yeah, there was a small part of the moon, I think, that was visible from the Earth, and then not in sunshine. So I think there was a small area that was shared between the astronauts and the ground, but I don't know I don't know the relationship of where the meteor strikes were seen relative to the ground stuff.
All right, Wayne, thank you very much. Great job. Victor, let's skip ahead, if you would, a couple slides to the SeeStar. And if somebody would open the back door, I think the person to pick up the SeeStar is here. And
SeeStar's in the front corner, Victor, behind you.
Yeah.
so basically for those of you who may not know, we have a SeeStar program where the club has one of these devices. They are fantastic, great fun. And so I'm going to, going forward, have a slide during the presentation to make sure that we don't miss it. So Mohammed had it for the past month, and now Amy, I think, just came in, and she's got to grab the SeeStar and dash off because she's got a sick pup to pick up at the vet. So at any rate, you be aware that we do have this program. You can get more information in terms of how to sign up to take a turn to borrow it for a month. And again, it's just a lot of fun, and it's not that hard to use. Certainly, there are more than enough people in the club that would help you if you needed some assistance in terms of figuring some stuff out with it. All right, so with that done, let's, if you don't mind, Victor, let's go back up to the shallow sky, and I'll do that.
Working on it.
There we go.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so the big thing in the shallow sky for this month is going to be the Lyrid meteor shower. Best time, it's going to peak on April the 22nd. Best time is when the radiant obviously is high in the sky, so late at night. This is not a very prolific shower. You get about 18 meters per hour, 18 meteors per hour under a dark sky. Moon conditions are going to be really good. So the moon will have set by the time the early morning hours after midnight comes. And, you know, where it shows here in Vega, between Vega and Hercules is where the radiant is. However, you can see these meteors anywhere in the sky. You don't have to just look in the northeast where Lyra is. One more click, Victor. The big thing about this meteor shower is that it really is known for fireballs. So even though you may not see a lot, you can see sometimes some really nice, bright meteors. I remember driving back home a couple years ago during the Lyrids and caught one of those. It was really spectacular, probably almost as bright as Venus that went by. So you may not be getting a high count like the Perseids, but you might get treated to a really spectacular, memorable fireball if you go out to watch the Lyrids. Next. And we are going to have an occultation. The moon, an occultation is when one object passes in front of another. Most of the occultations we talk about are where the moon is going to pass directly in front of something. There are 4 first magnitude stars along the zodiac that the moon can eclipse or occult. Spica, Aldebaran, what's the other one? Regulus, and there is another one. Spica, Antares, Regulus, and Aldebaran. Those are the 4. At any rate, Regulus on April the 25th, which is the night of our public star party. So the disappearance will be at 8:41, and the reappearance is about 40 minutes later at 9:30 p.m., or actually, no, 50 minutes later. So this will, what's really neat is it'll approach the dark end of the moon, will approach, that star will wink out like instantaneously because there is no atmosphere on the moon. So we definitely have a highlight to look forward to at the public star party on April the 25th. And if you can't make it out, hopefully you can check it out from your own backyard. Binoculars are perfectly good for seeing something like this. And I think that is it. Yeah, so let's go on one more time. And I think we are at the astrophoto section. There's a bunch of marks on the slide. Anyone else seeing that?
Somebody
It's like
might
we're
have had
drawing on the,
annotations on.
yeah. Do you guys
Maybe
have
if I
annotations
stop,
on?
can I stop and then restart this slideshow?
Try it and see. I don't know whether the annotations are Zoom or if they're the slideshow.
Oh, now it's on your computer.
Just kidding. Just kidding. I have no idea what that's all about.
Jeez. Okay.
Uh, well, um, I don't know if I should. Let me stop the share and then I'll reshare.
Okay. We'll try that.
Ghosts of Windows.
Did it go away?
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went away. Okay.
Are we good? Go, can I move
We
forward?
are. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay. I don't know if Wes is in the room with you or if he's online to talk about.
He is indeed in the room.
Yeah, so this is M42, the Orion Nebula. Took it from my backyard in Millersville. And then this was my first image I tried processing in PixInsight versus Serial. And it came out much better from PixInsight. It sort of like, oh, this is why everybody uses this. I think it's about 90 minutes of integration.
Wow. The S30.
With the S30 Pro, yeah.
Wow. Amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah, I'm very happy with how it came out.
Yeah, for something that small of an aperture, that is amazing.
Yeah, it's a really nice piece of kit. I keep going back to it. I mean, I'm doing some multi-night imaging with my big rig, but I'm really happy with how that one's working too.
I'm bringing that with me to Chile next time.
Yeah. And then this is the Pleiades. I took this at Alpha Ridge. And I think this was also about 90 minutes or so of integration.
Beautiful.
Nice.
All right, this one is mine, my 80 millimeter Vixen. This is one of my favorites. It's M35, which is the more coarse cluster to the right there. But what I love about it is that you've got another cluster right nearby, which is much further away and much denser. And you can see it looks a little older, a little bit more yellow. And that's NGC 2158. I've seen that a couple times with the telescope at dark sky sites. Any one of the sites we talked about tonight, I'm sure it'd be easy to pick up even a 6-inch. But this is one of those great twofers, that we have where you've got two deep sky objects kind of close together. And I just love the difference between the coarser, brighter M35 and the almost globular cluster looking like NGC 2158.
Is that a refractor?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Star spikes added.
Oh, you added the spikes. Okay.
Yes, for aesthetics.
Oh, nice.
Next.
Okay, that would be me. So I have an all-sky camera system at home. It's basically a Raspberry Pi computer with a fisheye lens and a little camera that's pointing straight up and taking pictures 24/7. And at night, it takes these 33-second images. And in the morning when I wake up, the software, the all-sky software, takes those images and builds a star trail image out of that. So this is what came out of that. It just happened to be a really clear night. This was 2 nights ago. Turns out I looked at last night's, which looks spectacular this afternoon when I took a look at it, but that's not up here. But you can see some dash lines. Those are airplanes an airplane that has gone through. And in the top left, so you see parts of my house, in the top left, you see some trees in the bottom right. But close to the top left, there's a little curve of very bright light. I believe that is the moon at that point that was being captured. And other little lights that you see are car lights and reflections of other lights. It's a dome on top, so there's a lot of reflectivity getting into the 360-degree lens.
So it's 30 seconds.
These are 33. Well, okay, so what you're seeing on the left is when the software was putting together stacking all the images, you just happen to see one thing there that was probably a 30-second image that the heading, the text got caught up, because the text gets processed in there too, because it's just these pictures that the computer's doing. That's why at the very top, it's hard to read the, I guess you can see the date, but the times are hard because it's just stacking everything. That it's extra stuff that shouldn't be stacked, but you're seeing these artifacts. But there's generally 33 seconds is what I'm set to capture at night, 25 during the day. So
But this is the whole night. This is
that's the whole night. Yeah. And you can see where Polaris is. Where's Polaris? In the center of the trees there. Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Very nice.
Steve, are you on? He's got a 14-inch that he can just move his little roll-off roof observatory and get some amazing shots. Whoops.
He's probably still sleeping because that was taken at 4 o'clock this morning.
Oh.
But that was one of the comments that's out. The one comment that they were hoping for, of course, I guess everyone saw, grazed the sun too closely and didn't survive.
Yeah, I'm on here.
Oh, well, there he is. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, I didn't see the picture on the screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah. I went out last night and thought I would try to get 29P, the periodic comet Schwarzmann-Washburn, which is up in the evening, and I did get it, but it's very, very, very faint. So then I got up at 4:30 this morning, and this kind of knocked my eyes out. How bright it was. This is around 5 o'clock is a good time to see it. It's very low, and I was fortunate that it was between the trees. But it's got a lot of structure, as you can see. And of course, at that time of the morning, it wasn't too long before my lens dewed up. But the sun was starting to brighten the sky at that point, so I was pretty pleased with this.
Yeah,
and because it was early this morning and I had things I had to do today, this is pretty quick processing. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
Still, do you know what magnitude it is?
This one, oh, it's bright. It's probably naked eye if you're in a really dark spot. I
really?
tried binoculars and I couldn't see it, but I expect with binoculars you'd see it in a dark spot.
Oh, cool.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Okay. So I think that's a wrap. And I want to especially thank the 4 presenters talking about the various spots that they've gone to. That was great. Really enjoyed that. We do have a planning meeting the first Monday in May. You don't have to be on the board to attend. These are Zoom, so you can feel free to drop in if you have a question for the planning committee, or you just want to see how the sausage is made. You're very welcome to come. We'd love to have you. Other than that, the next HAL meeting is May the 14th, where we are going to have David Teskey from the Alpo talk about observing the moon, which is very timely, what with Artemis going on and our renewed interest in the moon. So I hope to see everybody for that meeting, which should be very interesting as well. All right, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Victor. My thanks to you for being there and hosting it. And I'll look forward to seeing everybody next month.
And maybe you can give us a report about Neath.
I can maybe do that next month.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Safe drive.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Well
All right.
done, all. Good night.